It's not gonna work. The light bulb. I have an idea. In this video, I have a boho style kitchen tour for you, but not just any boho style kitchen. This is a homestead boho kitchen. And no, it's not been easy to combine those things. So I feel like I've accomplished something with this. Later in this video, we'll be making some Papa Murphy style pizzas. Then we'll take a little walk around the homestead to see what's hatching and happening. In my last couple of videos, I've showed you guys my very real, very used, very lived in homestead kitchen. And I thought, they're probably starting to think Shayla's a pig. So today, I cleaned up my kitchen. I did a pretty good job and it looks really nice. And so I wanted to show it to you guys before 5 minutes goes by and it explodes again. I want to start over here with these shelves. I'm really proud of them because I made them, but I didn't make them alone. I made these with my teenage sons who didn't realize I worked in construction in my early 20s, and they had no idea I knew how to use power tools, things like a planer. They kept telling me, Mom, you don't know how to use that. Watch and learn, sons, watch and learn. I knocked their socks off that day. So no, these shelves aren't super fancy, but they're affordable and they have a good story. This is my Nutrimill grinder. I'm very pleased with it. We still don't have a water filtration system, so we still have this water tank, and I made a cover for it. I crocheted it myself. If you find your kitchen is a struggle to get anything done in, consider zones. This is my baking zone. If you do a lot of baking, having a zone just for baking can drastically reduce the time it takes to accomplish baking projects. I've actually since removed this pan rack because I felt it was too cluttered, but I do still have these shelves over here, and I still need to replace the brackets. And that concludes this corner of my kitchen. And now we'll jump over to my favorite corner. I don't know why it's my favorite corner. I just think it's so pretty. Okay, hold up. Yes, that is an unfinished window. I don't have trim in our home yet. For those new here, this home was only about maybe 80% or less finished when we began purchasing it. We've been working to finish the home, but it's been tremendously slow going. My husband works full time. I homeschool and homestead, and we're in probably one of the busiest seasons of our lives with 6 kids ranging adult down to 5. So our method is to do what we can as we can. I have these cute little shelves in the corner. These are for my canned goods from the garden. I have way more in the basement, but I have just a few of these here to remind me of what I do have in the basement. Moving along this wall, I have my spice shelf. I like to have these within reach when I am cooking. I have some random boho inspired pieces. And over here on this one, I have my homemade soap, a beautiful ivy plant, sap, and kind of a junk box. Got things like tweezers in it and just random things. Down here, I've got this little butter dish. I love lemon decor, but I just don't really feel like this ties in with the rest of the kitchen. And over here is my sink. Yes, I did hide a gathering of dirty dishes in the sink before this video. Hey, I'm not perfect. Oh, but you know what is? Look at this. Last year, my husband received Husband of the Year award. Okay, not really. It's not really a thing. But if it was, he would have won it for this. He got me this marvelous little device. Get a good look. The sink drain basket thingy. Okay, that's not really what it's called, but I will link to this in the description below. Just look for sink basket thingy. This thing catches all the greasy food that stops up the top of the drain. Do you know what this means? No more digging around in a gunky drain trying to unclog it. Think of all the free time you'll have on your hands now. Moving on to appliances. This is a Z-Line. Don't get one. The Z-Line has been a nightmare. Our Gallons refrigerators, on the other hand, were affordable. We did need 2, but we love them. And so far, so good. This is my kitchen duty checklist. I also have it on these little cards. These really help whoever's cleaning the kitchen to remember all of the steps, provided the family actually looks at them. On the other side of our refrigerator, I have how to host. It's basically a checklist for our family for when we are getting ready to host people. And it makes hosting super simple. I have both of these available on my website. I'll link to them in the description box below. I also have how to host tips in a video I did not too long ago. I will also link to it below. This beast over here is one of my favorite parts of the kitchen. It keeps our home warm in the winter. I cook on it all the time in the winter months, that is. And I think it's just a beautiful grand old thing. Here's my black hutch, which I have actually since turned into more of an herb shelf. And please don't look at how the water cover is. My oldest son didn't put it on right when he switched out the water. Hey, I try to have my act together. But you know, I got kids. Kids have a way of deconstructing you in the worst and best ways. Anyways, I painted this thing last winter. It was white. I like it better now. In the underneath part, it holds all of our jars. We go through a lot of jars since we can most of our food. I also bake pretty much all of our bread products. It's way cheaper for our family. So this is my 5-gallon flour jar. Oh, and this is how the water tank cover is supposed to look. I don't really have things I collect except for wooden bowls. I love wooden bowls and rocks. I know, childish. I never grew out of it. When creating a beautiful kitchen space, 2 things a lot of people don't consider: sound and scents. It really helps to have a range hood to eliminate odors and incense. Incense helps to get rid of burnt food smells, bacon grease smells, any smells you don't want lingering around the kitchen. And if you don't like incense, I would encourage you to keep trying. Some really don't smell good, I will agree, but there are some out there that are just so lovely. Another thing is essential oils. So if you really don't like incense, essential oils work great too. Not as good as incense for getting rid of odors, but almost. And then sound. I love my little Alexa here. I have an oldies playlist as well as an evening playlist and a company playlist. We have a musical family and absolutely love our music. And I always find that when I need a bit of energy, sometimes a music playlist is just the right medicine. All right, my island. My island is a hodgepodge mess, and that is the surprise I have for you at the end of this video. We got a new island system. I can't wait to show it to you. This is what worked for us for the last almost 2 years. This space for the island has gone through a few changes, all of them a bit tacky and very hodgepodge, but worked for us, sort of, not great. In fact, I didn't realize how inconveniencing this setup was until we got a better setup, which I will show you. I'm actually in shock at how much more productive I am with the new setup. Here is a tool chest that we had, which was kind of neat. As life would have it, after I filmed this Boho homestead kitchen tour, we decided it was time to get these floors finished. We intended to have these floors finished the week we moved in, before the van was unpacked. But long story short, there were some disasters around the house that we had to prioritize. And then we needed to return our moving van, so we needed to get everything out of the van and in the house. And consequently, put us 2 years behind our estimated floor finishing date, which was definitely frustrating. Here's my hard-working hubby. He is sanding these floors. Look at the difference between the sanded and the unsanded. And here I am helping him. See, I'm helping. By the way, and ironically, the name of the song you're listening to right now is called Trophy Wife. That concludes my very boho homestead kitchen tour. So now let's get cooking, but I think I'm gonna go change first. The other night I had to come up with a dinner plan practically at dinner time, which is not ideal. I will tell you all about it in just a second. I'm gonna show you all the details of making these pizzas. While I do that, I'm going to talk about something else though. So I'm just going to explain what these are really quick. I simply took pizza dough. It was just bread dough that I had rising in the refrigerator. I rolled it out. I didn't do a sauce because I wanted to do a Papa Murphy style pizza. So I layered on the cheese. This is homemade mozzarella cheese, some bacon, spinach. I wanted to put sun-dried tomatoes on them, but I had run out, so I didn't have any. But I was going to put those on had I had some. On one of them, I put some pepperoncinis. I was going for that Papa Murphy's Mediterranean style chicken pizza. If you've never had it, it's amazing. And then over here, I did a barbecue pizza. So this has got mozzarella and cheddar, and the chicken was already cooked. So I waited till these pieces were done to top them with the chicken. All right, so now I will show you all the nitty gritty details of making these pizzas while we chit chat about something important. I'd like to discuss control, anger, motivation for the devotional portion of this video, which by the way, if you're new here, I like to add a little devotional portion to most of my videos. So while we make these Papa Murphy style pizzas, I'd like to talk about anger management techniques specifically for mamas. A while back, I was filming my video, a 4th of July menu plan. Also, at the same time, almost the same day, I was filming our beach day food, which actually crossed over 2 days. Anyway, so I'm in the middle of all this filming, and we were going to have our hot dog bar, which I shared in that previous 4th of July video. And one of the kids texted my husband and asked him to get hot dog buns because I didn't have enough time to make them like I normally do. Well, he didn't take the kids seriously. Which is understandable. I mean, they're kids. They've texted him sometimes and asked him for things like a motorcycle. And they frequently ask for candy and ice cream and things like that. So he comes in the door and I have everything ready for the hot dog bar. And there are no buns. Now you have to understand at this point, I had been working for about 3 hours to prepare the hot dog bar. It doesn't actually take that long to do it. It's just when you're filming too, it does take a little bit longer. Everything was beautiful. Everything was set out and I was losing light for the day. And I needed the light to finish filming the end product in a way that would look appetizing. And natural light is always best for that. He offered to run to the gas station, but I knew by then it was going to be too late to finish filming the end result. And I really didn't want that 3 hours to completely go to waste with no end result filming for you guys. Also, we live way out in the boonies. We have older vehicles that are gas guzzlers, and I didn't really want to waste the gas money. So I decided to save the hot dogs for the next day, and I would make hot dog buns like I normally do. But I was tired. If you're a mother and you're being honest, you know that when you're tired, it's easy to get cranky. And of course, you can imagine you have just made this big feast and now you can't use it. You have to come up with a completely different evening dinner plan to feed your family of 8, and it's 6 o'clock. So you better hurry. So now you got the tiredness and pressure. Now there are times in times past where I would have lost it, and I still do that sometimes. But you know what? Having this channel has done a lot to bring me closer to God, and it has definitely been helping me to be more temperate. So I was pretty proud of myself. I held it together and I rerouted all of the evening plans. And of course there was wailing and mourning from the children that we weren't having hot dogs. Okay, it wasn't quite that bad, but they were very disappointed. So I had to think of something equally as amazing. Well, I did have this dough, and I had some chicken, and I had a lot of cheese. I had spinach, and it hit me. I could do some Papa Murphy knockoff pizzas. Have you ever had that chicken Mediterranean pizza with the sun-dried tomatoes and the spinach on it and the chicken and the Alfredo sauce? It is so good. Well, as soon as I mentioned a Papa Murphy style pizzas, the wailing and mourning stopped. The kids were fine. Disaster averted. All was well, and it all worked out. I'm gonna be really honest and level with you. I come from a long line of tempered tantrum havers, for lack of a better word. There's heavy Irish ancestry there, as well as Serbian and Croatian. Some people say that's got something to do with it. I don't know. But what I do know is I'm not the only mama that gets angry sometimes. And something else I do know is that it seems like the world in general is just becoming more angry. I am literally appalled, especially on Facebook and Instagram, how absolutely vile people can get and how angry they can get in the comment sections. It's actually quite frightening. It's like the world is going animal. In the Bible, it says, "The anger of man worketh not the righteousness of God." That's James 1:20. So I have ADHD. 2 of my children so far have been diagnosed with it. The year they were diagnosed, all 3 of us went for therapy. I had been dealing with years of pent up pain from a lot of traumas, from extended family relationships, as well as church trauma. And I realized I didn't have the tools to process what my husband and I had been through together. And I didn't know it at the time, but later it was discovered I had post-traumatic stress syndrome. So a lot of people don't know this about ADHD, but when a person has it, there are important coping techniques that come naturally to most people that don't have ADHD. They do not come naturally to people with ADHD. So therapy, especially for kids, everybody, but especially important for children, is important so that they can learn how to cope and be successful and curb anger issues before they start. All right, now before I go on, I do want to say that I have had some people leave some quite holier than thou comments whenever I talk about this. I do not allow comments like that here. The way I see it, if somebody has a negative, disparaging comment like that to leave, they need to start their own channel, work 5 years of their life to build it, where they can share their views. I like to keep my comment section uplifting and respectful. All right, moving on. Well, one day, one of my boys' therapists explained how anger works. He drew what looked kind of like a mountain and explained that in the valleys, as you're leading up to the anger, there is a point where you can turn around. But once you get close to the tip and the peak of that anger, there is no turning around. So you've got to catch it and catch the anger and curb it before you get too riled up and too worked up. One of the most important things to learn when it comes to anger management is to know your triggers and to curb them before you hit that point. So you've got to do a little bit of reflecting here. Common triggers, especially from others, include sleep deprivation, constant noise, skipping meals, and developing low blood sugar. For some, disorganization. And a big one is overwhelm. But there are deeper things that can contribute to anger issues as well. For example, I mentioned trauma. This is really hard, but unforgiveness from past traumas can keep us kind of like in a state like a teapot that is always on simmer and ready to whistle as soon as the heat gets cranked up a little bit too much. So you might back this video up and write down all of those triggers and the bit about trauma to see if any of this resonates with you. If it does, you will have more or less work depending on what your triggers are and how deep the issues go. If there's trauma, you've got some healing to do. You might not be able to do it alone. I really cannot highly recommend a professional counselor highly enough, and of course try to find a Christian one. It's likely you won't find the help you need from just the church alone. Friends, I have gone 45 years, and in all of that time only recently met a pastor who had experience with counseling, advice, and professionalism. Sadly, a lot of pastors and people in the church can do a little more harm than good, or a lot more harm than good, because it isn't as easy as basic forgiveness, and there are certain steps involved and some deconstructing, and it takes a professional to dig in sometimes. There's a plan on forgiveness on the YouVersion app called The Power to Forgive. I highly recommend it. It's one of the most helpful resources to learn the steps to forgiveness that I have ever come across. Here's what's happening around the homestead. I don't have to take the hay and come out through this gate and then down over there anymore. I'll show you what's going on. My hubby got the window done. This is gonna have shutters put on in time for winter. Now I just have to grab the hay, throw it out the window into the feeder. The feeder is moved away right now. It will be pushed back up. Like I'll have garlic scapes soon. I promised you guys I'd show you the island remodel. So this is the island space before. And here is the island after. Eventually, we would like to get cabinets for underneath here. My husband's going to build them, but this setup is going to work really well until he can get to that project. I think this doubled my storage space in the island. I have wanted one of these butcher block countertops for around 25 years. I've always thought they were the most practical, convenient type of countertop to have. I think my favorite thing about having this huge island space now is the amount of food that I'm able to prepare at one time. I didn't realize how much having a big island space like this would speed up my work process and workflow in the kitchen, but it did. I'm able to make massive quantities of food for the freezer for our family of 8 much more efficiently and quickly than I was before. I want to show you guys what I did for the butcher block countertop. But first, let me show you the floor, how beautiful it turned out. My husband did such a wonderful job. He is definitely a perfectionist. He does all types of carpentry, but I think that his true gift is in detailed woodworking, and that's definitely where his passion lies. So what we did with this island, and the kids, of course, wanted to be in on the fun. Anytime there's a big new project like this, they always want in on the fun. So I am teaching my children how to do finish work here. I come from a woodworking family, and my family had a cabinet business when I was in my early 20s. So I'm teaching some of my kids how to apply a sealant. This is a low VOC sealant, and we sealed the bottom of the butcher block countertop with this. It's basically a latex finish. This is just for the bottom, not for the top. My little girl begged to have a turn doing this. I guess woodworking must run in the blood around here. So I gave her a little finishing lesson. So to treat the top part of this countertop, first I applied mineral oil. I applied 2 coats of mineral oil. Now I know that you hear people talk about using coconut oil and olive oils and things like that. That is a really bad idea. You never want to do that. And the reason for it is because coconut oil, olive oil, all those kinds of oils, they will go rancid. If you want a natural oil, you could use jojoba. That is one that will not go rancid like the others will. For a butcher block as big as this one is, it's about 6 foot by 6 foot. I didn't want to use jojoba. That would have been really expensive. So I used mineral oil. For the 3rd coat, I did a special blend of beeswax and mineral oils. For my mineral oil beeswax blend, I actually added some lemon essential oil as well. I used about 2 tablespoons of these beeswax pellets and probably about 1.5 cups of mineral oil. And then you just melt that together. Try not to let it smoke, but you do want to get it pretty warm. It was the perfect blend. You want to put it on while it's really hot so that it soaks into the wood a little bit better. So you know you have enough coats on, and you know that you've done a good job and that your butcher block is properly sealed when water beads up on it. The water is beading into droplets on the butcher block, and that is what you want on a butcher block countertop. You don't want the water to sink in. You want it to bead up like that. Thank you guys so much for watching till the end, and come back soon for a kitchen day marathon.